All right, guys, welcome back to the Brutal American Podcast. We're here again. Pastor Ethan Sin. We just got off the golf course. Ethan won today. Him and Eric beat me and Ryan by 2 strokes.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
I figured you would, so I was going to try to get ahead of it. It ended up being closer than we thought it was going to be, honestly.
Yeah, 2 strokes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you gave us a run for our money.
I mean, I think at the beginning
you picked the teams.
Yeah, I did. I did that on purpose because if we're going to go out and we're going to do something I'm really not all that great at, I would rather be considered an underdog to begin with and be chasing.
Then you should have won that.
Then everyone be going dude, why do you suck so bad? You're supposed to win. I there's something about that. I like the give you something to chase rather than be playing defense in those scenarios. But it was a lot of fun. I think you guys probably would have given us a few strokes to begin with. I probably
would have given you 5 strokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fact that we kept it close at the end.
Yeah. On the back 9, we're just trying to stop the bleeding.
Yeah. Well, on the front, we were miserable right out the gate. It wasn't great, but we pulled it together a little bit, so it got better from there. So.
It was fun. Beautiful morning, course to yourself.
Weather was incredible.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. So now we're here. We're going to hang out with you guys for a little bit and talk about some GBRS Fitness Standards that we ran through, I guess, last weekend. That seems like a really long time ago.
6 days ago.
That seems like a month ago. I was thinking earlier this week, I was thinking about you and Ben and just our families. And I was like, man, I feel like we haven't hung out in forever. And then it dawned on me that we hung out all day Saturday.
Yeah, did the test. Families got together, cooked out. You grilled on the Blackstone. Just hung out all day. So,
which was a great time. Yeah, looking forward to more summer hangouts. So that was a lot of fun. But the main thing here is kind of talking about good physical tests and not everything being the leisure kind of stuff like golf or tennis or whatever. But stuff that's a little bit more grueling from time to time.
Even though those have competition.
Yeah, those are great.
Even tennis. We played tennis Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? Me, you, Brian, and Paige.
Yeah.
And that is a workout.
It was competitive.
Ran almost 3 miles.
Yeah.
And it was competitive. But I think what you're talking about is still slightly different than that. Yeah.
Something, like I said, that's a little bit more grueling, that's specifically for the guys. And when I say the guys, I mean your tight group, the group that you're wanting to be the phone call in the middle of the night when things have gone wrong, kind of that group, those guys that you think of, and you need those guys. If you don't have those guys, the number one priority needs to be finding at least one of those guys. But I think that group needs from time to time, just a good, something that kind of tempers everyone and kind of brings them closer together and lets you share in each other's suffering a little bit for just a short period of time. If it's a weekend or if it's, just one morning, like a Saturday morning, like we had, something like that, kind of gets the juices flowing a little bit, lets you feel that competitive edge and, kind of draws you a little bit outside of yourself and makes you do things that you wouldn't normally feel comfortable doing.
A little bit of an aside, but Ben and I were having this conversation, doing some counseling this week. Mm-hmm. We were talking about friendship and how friendship, you think back to elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and you had friends. I mean, yeah, you had people you hung out with, but how many of those people do you still keep in contact with from those stages of life or even previous careers or anything else like that? And at best, we'll exchange a Christmas card once a year with a handful of people and maybe text or call on birthdays or something like that. But basically Ben's point was, children, young men, young women don't really have friends. You're practicing building friendship at those stages. And I don't think we've actually talked about this before, but when you're adolescent, you are practicing friendship, and then friendship becomes possible as an adult. And how do you define that? And how do you think about friends and the group I think that's one definition is who you're going to call in the middle of the night and they're going to answer the phone and show up. Ben's analogy was what kind of guy is going to be willing to be hated for calling out your sin? If you're caught in a sin, if you're caught in a trespass and I say, Tate, you got to knock that off. And, am I willing for you to hate me to tell you the truth?
Yeah.
That level. And I think before he said that, I said, how many people in your life are willing to die for you?
Yeah.
Or how many people in your life are willing to kill for you? Mm-hmm. Like those are the stakes. And I think they're slightly different, but they're all a much higher level of like, I like this guy. He's funny. We have a good time, a good rapport, got the riz. Like that's a different level. And
Sure.
I think when we actually consider what is friendship and how many friends do I have, like the list isn't going to be very long. But I think for a lot of people, if you define it that way, the list would be 0. Anyway, just whatever you said just made me think about that. And I think it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I haven't really thought about these 2 points being connected together, but your point about like someone who's willing to die for you or willing to kill for you being someone who's a true friend. And especially for men, that should be the standard. I know that probably sounds like bravado when you say it, like sitting at a table, with podcast mics in front of you, but genuinely that should be an evaluation that you're running through when you're going, all right, who are my friends? And if you compare that to the friendship and this is an ongoing joke here in the basement, like what guy is 30 years old and has 12 friends, right? Like Jesus literally died for his friends and then told those same men, like the definition of love is that you would lay down your life for your brother. And is talking to the disciples when he's saying that. And so I think as Christians, we actually really do have to take those things into account when we're talking about something that seems, I think, kind of frivolous and kind of just fun most of the time, like who are my friends? But those things are really important to consider.
And I think a lot of times you don't know until you test it.
Right.
And a lot of times you're not actually going to get the opportunity to test it, hopefully. Right.
Hopefully you don't ever have to figure that out. But
if you say, I would die for you, but what's even less than that? Would I call out sin? Would I be willing to be hated by you for the sake of your soul? And if you're not willing to do that, why do I expect you're going to jump on a grenade for me?
Right.
So,
yeah. And I think we go, well, because the stakes aren't that high right now. And you're like, well, actually they are all the time. Yeah. Like obviously we're not in a life or death scenario sitting here, but there's always something at stake. And, being the guy that's like, I said I was going to do this, I'm doing this is really important when you're evaluating those friendships. And, even like we're not constantly like walking up to each other and going face to face and going, hey, you sinned right here. Like repent right now. Like that's not like a common all the time thing. But I do know that like, you're not afraid of doing that to me. The other thing is that on my side of it, like I respect you enough that if you did that, I would take it very, very seriously. And more often though, it kind of looks like, I walk into Ben's office this week and just brought up, like, I think I've said this on here before. My wife has pretty rough pregnancies and it's just difficult. There's not really anyone to blame for it. There's not like a whole bunch of sin going on. It's just,
you could take the blame.
I could just say it's my fault. But like this, just the way the circumstances are, things are just not easy when she's sick all the time. And we had a really good conversation, and part of the reason I think that we work really well as a group of friends is because we have a bunch of similarities. And so it's much easier for him to look at my scenario, which he's not currently standing in, and go, here's what I would be tempted to do in your situation. I bet you're doing this. And then me go, yeah, that's actually exactly what I'm doing. And it's not like some horrific thing, but it's just like a tendency that I have that I could be more aware of and then avoid.
Like bumpers to keep you out of the ditches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's super helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I didn't mean to derail that. I just thought of that.
It's a good topic. And I think it's relevant for everyone. We just went to that family life conference out in Carolina recently. And so many of the conversations revolve around this kind of thing. It's like, how do I get my buddies to buy in? How do I make some buddies that are actually genuine friends? Like, those are the topics that I think a lot of you guys are dealing with all the time. So I think it's always relevant.
Yeah, we have this goal in mind, how do we get there? Do I start with the raw material we already have? How do I find the right raw material and then forge it? Like that's where a lot of people are at.
Absolutely. I do think that what we did this past weekend is a perfect example of how to kind of take a step towards building that kind of like tight group of friends or a brotherhood, if you want to call it that. We're also just 2 weeks away when this comes out from the NCP games. So New Christendom games are coming. The conference is gonna be kicking off in June. And I think that that's actually like a perfect example of the principles that we're going to be kind of discussing in this episode.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Luke.
And this is Defiant Machine Works.
Here at Defiant, we specialize in precision firearm customizations that deliver performance and aesthetic. Hand stippling for superior grip and control in any condition, CNC slide milling and optic cuts, porting to reduce recoil, and flawless Cerakote finishes in any color or pattern you want. The best part? Industry-leading turnaround, your custom build finished in 2 weeks or less. No endless waits, just high-performance firearms that stand out. From Glock to SIG, Smith & Wesson to CZ, we handle it all with over 10 years of collective machining experience. So take your build to the next level, head over to DefiantMachineWorks.com and use code WARCHEST at checkout for 10% off. That's WARCHEST at checkout for 10% off.
And it did dawn on me when I was kind of considering this topic that every culture by default has physical and aesthetic characteristics. So if we want to build good culture, we must at some point turn an eye towards physicality and aesthetics. Like that has to be part of our consideration to build a good culture. And the conference theme this year is the war for normal. And what I'm about to say is not meant to like take anything away from the war for normal. That's we're on board for that. Rather, I want to kind of expound a bit on what we mean by the war for normal. So yes, we do want to move away from like the leftist goy slop culture of full-blown faggotry that we live in, that the vast majority of people are just swimming in the nation and nonstop, and they don't even realize it. But as we know really well, like neutrality isn't an option. So there's no middle ground. We can't just try to move away from a culture of impotence. We actually have to be moving toward a culture of like Western Christian excellence, right? And so that Western Christian excellence has to be embodied. It has to be pursued physically as well as spiritually and intellectually. So the physical part can't be ignored. I think the New Christendom Games, which we're kicking off the conference with, is one way that we're kind of attempting to build this, Western Christian Ogden culture towards that level of excellence. And so when we say the war for normal, we really mean the war for Western Christian excellence. That's what we mean by normal. And sometimes that looks like just ordinary family dinners on Wednesday night.
Yeah, things like family worship and disciplining your kids and, having friends and having people over for dinner, hospitality. It's all of that.
Good, solid liturgical worship on Sundays. Yeah. Like all of the things that we mean by that, yes. But in each of those facets, we're trying to be excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's a great point. Like we did this. It had been on the books for a while. We scheduled it. We did it. We're going to do it twice a year, for the rest of our lives till we can't do it anymore, or find something better. But this is another example of that. Is like people are coming from all over the country, outside the country, and competing in this thing. And yeah, you have a hierarchy, you have excellence, you have people who didn't qualify and try to qualify next year. Like it's a limited competition of the best who qualified, And yeah, it's a test, and at the end of the day, you have a 1 through 20 of who are the strongest, fastest, most in shape guys, and that's great, right? And yeah, there are ditches on both sides. We're way in the ditch of like none of this matters, and we're just like spiritual stuff is all that matters, and physical doesn't matter, and the body doesn't matter. We're squarely standing in that ditch, and you could jump in the other ditch, but we're nowhere close to that.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. And I just want to point out, like, it is already working. Like we did 1 year of the games And a bunch of the dudes that were standing in, on the sidelines or sitting in the stands went home and got gym memberships or bought some home gym equipment and then started getting after it with the intention of making it this year. Like the number of guys that I've seen PR deadlifts or run their fastest mile or you name it in the last year in the pursuit of trying to qualify to just be here in June and compete in person at the conference. Like I could name 5 offhand right now. And that's so exciting to me. I think that is what tests like this do, is that it gives the guys who are sort of apathetic about things like this a goal to shoot at. And suddenly you're like, actually, I'm being compared. Even if I'm not on the field, there's no neutrality. I'm comparing myself, if nothing else, to the guys that are out there moving weight or running really fast or whatever it is. And so I think that's really, really helpful.
I think that is really important because growing up, playing sports, doing stuff like that, you actually have these things built in. You have games, you have playoffs, you have championships, you have teammates and things like that. And they're like built into the system of why do we hit the weight room? Because we have to go play this team. And they throttled us last year. And you have those things built in and you have coaches and teammates telling you like, this is why you need to show up. Yeah. But sometime between the end of high school and the end of college, for 99% of people, that goes away.
It just kind of stops.
There isn't, unless you sign up for races or you sign up for, what are the tough mud events?
Yeah, obstacle course races
stuff, and get shock wire and like stuff like that. I mean, you can do it, and those things I think would be included in this.
Sure.
But a lot of that is relatively, a single competitor thing.
Yeah, you tend to be solo doing stuff like that, unless you rope a bunch of guys into doing it with it.
And people do that, but and there is ranking. Everybody, all the strangers that you don't know and don't care about. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we do as much on the individual, our own community, our own group, our own church level. I don't think there's that much of that kind of thing that goes on. Wasn't there one recently in the Midwest that somebody did something similar, like a retreat?
I think it might have been in. I know some guys that we met. Shout out to Chris Gore. We met some guys from Oklahoma. That did. I think they called it the Kings Festival here recently, and I got invited out. I would love to have been there. Brett, sorry for not being there. But it looked like a really cool event. They did a jiu-jitsu tournament. They did a lifting competition. I think they did some other stuff. And I'm thrilled to see stuff like that popping up and guys doing things like that. I think that's awesome. And at some point, I don't think we're quite there yet, but I would love for the games here in June to turn into a team competition where communities and churches are sending out their, 3 or 4 best guys.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be even a better way of not just crowning like one champion, but like, hey, the guys from Oklahoma or the guys from Alabama or the guys from wherever are this year's champions. And like, this is where they go to church and this is their pastor. And this is who they are and where they've come from, instead of it being such an individualistic thing.
Yeah. You have an internal from, wherever you are in Oklahoma, internal competition to see who gets to make the team to go to Ogden to compete. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think having those goals and those future events is really important in the motivation to like get up every day and work out and eat right and get enough sleep and take care of yourself. And like when you actually have something that you have a purpose for doing, I think for me, it makes it a whole lot easier when you're like, I know this thing's coming. It is hanging over your head a little bit, right? Like, and that's a good thing, right? That's the whip on your back saying like, man, if I was 10 pounds lighter, this test would be a lot easier, right? If I was, if I get up and do my workouts this week, then this test is going to be easier. I'm going to compete better and I'm going to be more proud of myself and not feel like I'm letting my guys down.
Right. Exactly. 100%. I think that's absolutely a hack. Like if you're having a really hard time convincing yourself to get started on some of this stuff, signing up for something or committing to some sort of competition or just going, hey, by this date, I want to have either run this fast for this far or lifted this much weight in a particular lift. Like for me, I've figured out that I need something like that every 3 to 4 months for me to stay focused on a particular goal. Cause it's not like I'll stop working out, but things will just get really haphazard for me. I'll just be doing random stuff instead of things that are intentionally focused towards progressing in very intentional ways.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful to be focused, to be intentional, to know these are the goals, and to be able to say like I did them or I didn't, and reap the consequences of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the GBRS fitness test that we did, and then kind of some of the principles, but like why we think this is really, really important. And we'll also kind of walk through what the actual test was as well.
Yeah, just really broadly. I don't even know what the acronym stands for. Like global response.
I think it's global battlefield research solutions, maybe.
But there are these guys, bunch of former operators have this organization. But I found their stuff really helpful for two things. I mean, I see them making videos and stuff, and like some of the content is interesting. But their shooting standards and their fitness standards, I think, are really helpful. And none of it's like crazy. You know, you could probably come up with this stuff. Like it's pretty normal stuff. But just knowing, hey, this is the standard for a bill drill, and this is the standard for the high ready, low ready, and the check drill, and like just having some stuff to run through and doing them periodically on the shooting side of things. And then we found this fitness test and thought, you know what, I think that's a really good combination of strength and endurance, you know, and
speed, power output.
Yeah, all the things that we actually are kind of aiming for, right? Because again, you could be in one ditch or the other ditch with this kind of stuff. You know, there's no 10K in it or whatever. There's no 100-kilometer.
No, there's not an ultra race in it.
You know,
but there's also not like, it's not a bodybuilding competition either.
Right.
It's not like hey, we're just going to see how much, you know, we can pull for a single rep on deadlift, and that's all we're worried about kind of thing.
Yeah.
It does a good job being pretty well balanced.
It's pretty balanced, I think, for kind of what we see as like the goal for us. So I like that. I also like that it's based on your weight. Mm-hmm. So based on your body weight is how much you have to bench and how much you have to deadlift and farmers carry and things like that. So it built into it is a little bit of a handicap where, you know, or motivation, if you will, for if I'm 250, that's a whole lot more. 2 times my body weight's a whole lot more than if I'm 205. So yeah, I like that a lot. I think it makes it a pretty fair test in terms of like everybody doesn't have to be built exactly the same. You will have strengths over here, weaknesses over here, but I think for any group of guys, this is a pretty even playing field, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. It's a pretty even-handed test. I was just going to pull up the standards here. So we'll actually walk through what these different tests are. Ethan's already mentioned a few of them. But the way that you run through this is there are 7 different tests. It is a broad jump, then it's bench press, pull-ups, trap bar deadlift, a plank, a farmer's carry, and then an 800-meter run. And so there are different classifications for each individual test. You either are meeting the minimal standard or what they call the standard. You are meeting the medium, like the B tier standard, which is what they call the elite standard. And then you have the top tier stuff, which is the pro standard. So everything, like you said, is based off of body weight, other than obviously the pull-ups that is worked in, and the plank and the 800-meter run, it's all worked in.
The others are percentages of body weight.
The other, external outside your body weight lifts are off of your body weight. So we ran through all of these.
I also like that if you're competing, you have these standard, elite, pro, categories, but there are also no limit on these things. So like the pro pull-ups is 20. And if everybody can do 20, now it becomes how many pull-ups can I do?
Right.
So there is really no cap on some of these events, which is also helpful once everybody's in that category.
Yeah. If you can find that all of your guys are meeting that pro standard, then from there it's just like an all-out war to see who can maximize their results. So the broad jump is the minimal standard is your height. The median standard is your height plus a foot. And then the pro standard is your height plus 2 feet. And so we went through that. Who all took this test? So it was me, you, Ben did it with us, and then Joe 40 did it with us, and then one of our other guys from the group did it with us as well, our buddy Nick. And we ran through the whole test. I think this might have taken 5 guys like an hour and a half. I think it was less than 2 hours.
It was about 90 minutes, and that was translating from the gym to the track,
which is not far, but still, like we all got in vehicles, and it's not like we were trying to run through it super fast. We just moved from one thing to the next pretty naturally. You and I both had our families with us. Ben had his boys with him. It's not like it was I don't know,
boom. Like it wasn't super fast. It didn't feel like rushed. Like you pretty much got to recover in between events.
No, and like Memorial Day is coming up here soon. Well, Memorial Day is already passed. If you're watching this, once it comes out for everyone, and you're not on the Patreon. If you're not on the Patreon, you should go check that out because they get episodes early. But I've done Murph a handful of years for Memorial Day, and it's the kind of thing that affects the entire rest of the day. Where you just kind of like, if you do it the way that you're supposed to do it, you kind of never really get over the I might throw up soon feeling. Like it just, for me, just lasts most of the day, which is kind of miserable. I'm not advocating for Murph. Like I think you should do Murph at least once if you haven't done it. It's miserable. But my point here is that this wasn't that. It wasn't just like let's see if we can run everyone's legs off and see if we can get everybody to throw up. It's more of a, like, can you actually perform in these specific tests? And it's a good evaluation. It's not just like a puke fest.
Yeah.
So I thought that was also something to point out that I think is good. Like you can hear 7 tests all in a row and think like that sounds horrible, but it really wasn't that bad.
The plank, I think everybody agreed the plank sucks. And then the 800, like there's no way that doesn't suck.
Yeah. The 800 is just miserable, but
beyond that, it was fine.
Yeah. It wasn't too bad. I think we both hit pro standard on the broad jump. The bench press is body weight for reps. So you have your body weight on the bar, minimal standards, 10 reps, median standards, 15, pro standard is 20 or more.
And all of our guys were between 185 and I'm 220. So in that category,
in that
most
range.
Guys 195, 205, 210, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't bad. We had, I think I hit the pro standard. Joe hit the median standard. Everyone did pretty well. Ben hit the minimal standard by the skin of his teeth. I think his final rep, his 10th rep on the bench press was like an 8.5 second long rep. It was unbelievably long. And you guys might see it in the video if you're on the Patreon, but
is that clip in where he's,
I'm going to make a longer edit. I made like a hype edit that's like 30 seconds long that we'll post on socials. You guys probably see it, but I'm going to try to make a little bit longer edit for the Patreon. So you guys get a better feel for what the test actually looks like, because let's be honest, like the 30-second clip of us, it's like half a second of us like jumping through the air or something. Like it's not an actual representation of what the test really looks like. It's fun. It's cool. Like I like making those videos, but yeah, his 10th rep is it's a long one. He like gets the bar off his chest, and I was spotting him, and he was like, "Don't touch it." You could tell he had it set in his mind, like he's getting that rep.
It's gonna happen.
But he got it done. Next we moved on to pull-ups, which is, if you're just a normal person, like there are some guys that are light and just great at bodyweight stuff who are really good at pull-ups, but the vast majority of people just really struggle with pull-ups. The same thing there. You had 10 for the minimal standard, 15 for the median, then 20 or more for the pro standard on those. Pull-ups are always tough. The trap bar deadlift is your body weight times 1.5 for 5 reps, 1.75 for 5 reps, or 2x your body weight for 5 reps for the top standard. That seemed like everyone did really well on that.
Yeah, and if you don't, we bought a trap bar for this event. But a lot of us, I mean, the last time I had a trap bar was in high school.
Yeah, it had been a very long time since I consistently used a hex bar.
Easier than doing a traditional deadlift. And so it was a little bit hard for guys to say, do I want to shoot for the standard, the pro, or the elite or the pro? Just because it wasn't like you're going to do better than you would on a normal deadlift. Probably.
A straight bar deadlift puts you in a much more compromising position than a hex bar deadlift does. Yeah. A hex bar deadlift, in my opinion, is almost kind of like a leg press where you're holding the weight instead of sitting under it. And you don't have your core and all of that stuff in nearly as a compromising position. You're basically just pushing your feet through the floor. It's not nearly as much of a pull as a straight bar deadlift is.
Yeah. That was a good one. Everyone did really well on that one.
Yeah, we did good on that. The plank was the next one, and you're supposed to do these in order. I've watched several videos. Nick Bear's done this test. I've obviously watched the GBRS guys do this test as well, and they run it in this order the whole time. So if you're going to do it and you want to use this test, I would suggest doing it in this order. The plank, in my opinion, was the worst. I wanted to hit pro standard on everything, and so I was shooting for that 3 minutes. So it goes 2 minutes, 2:30, and then 3 minutes to hit the pro standard. 3 minutes felt like an eternity to me.
I thought was your wife timing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought she was lying.
I thought she was joking with us. We got to 1 minute and she goes, there's 1 minute. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way we've only been doing this for 1 minute. And I don't know. I don't do planks all the time, but I do a decent amount of stuff that's like core intensive. This was terrible. Like I just hated it. We got it done, but it was miserable.
Men, it's time to reclaim the strength you were made for. Introducing the Crusader Transformation, a 90-day barbell challenge with a limit of 5. We'll keep this small so you can build a brotherhood with 5 like-minded fathers who value strength as much as you do. Together, we'll forge competence, discipline, and resilience. If you sign up now, it's only $800, which is 25% off the regular price. You'll train with purpose, stay accountable, and receive personalized instruction. Join the Crusader Transformation. Train for strength, lead with purpose. Sign up at crusader.fitness.
The next thing on here, and I think this is something that we were all expecting to be a lot more difficult than it ended up being, was the farmer's carry. So you have your body weight. You can obviously use dumbbells, not a deadlift bar, but you can use dumbbells for this.
You could do 2 bars.
That I would not suggest. I've tried it before. Terrible. It's awful. Way more difficult. But you could use dumbbells. You could use kettlebells for this. I actually got some pretty sweet farmer's carry handles that are plate loadable. So that way we could just load up to exactly, your body weight, basically down to within a couple pounds. And everyone got to do this at exactly their body weight.
And they weren't expensive, were they?
No.
Yeah.
The ones that I found, I bought them on Amazon. I think they were less than $100.
Yeah.
Like $75.
But they're really, really nice.
You can load them up really heavy too.
Yeah, you could if you needed to, but they were really nice to be able to, I don't know, carry them low and be able to swing as you're moving. I don't know if you talked about the standards for that one.
No, not yet.
Body weight.
It's your body weight so it's actually half of your body weight in each hand, totaling your body weight. The minimal standard is 175 feet of carry,
which was like 55 yards,
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
The median standard was 225 feet, and then the pro standard was 250 or more.
And that ended up being like 85 yards, something
86 yards, something like that,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. It might have been a little bit less than that, but somewhere in that like 83 to 86 yard range. We did this on the football field, and I think I was the only one that stopped at the pro standard. Like everyone else just carried them 100 yards for
because
kicks.
Somebody did, and now everybody has.
Yeah,
to.
and then everyone, was like, I have to do that now. So, but I really think we talked about this several times leading up to the test, and we were both kind of back and forth being like, man, the farmer's carry is gonna be tough. And then we got to it, and it was not difficult.
It was probably the easiest event for everyone to hit pro on.
I think so. Yeah.
I think when I was thinking about it, I was picking up my 100-pound dumbbells and just holding them as long as I could and thinking, how long is it going to take me to go 85 yards?
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, the day of, it was way easier than just standing there holding dumbbells.
I do think if you are training to do, heavier farmer's carries or just improve your farmer carry capacity, which is always a great thing to do. You can feel this a lot in your upper back and your shoulders, and then obviously in your grip. Your core gets worked pretty good as well doing these. You could tell that we had just done the plank whenever you picked up the weight for the farmer's carry. But the way that we trained for it was I had everyone trying to accumulate like basically 3 to 5 minutes holding their body weight in each, half body weight in each hand or something close to it. And so leading up to it, at the end of one of our workout days, you would basically just pick the weight that you were going to use, set a timer, hit go, and then pick the weight up and hold it for as long as you could. And then when you put the weight down, you would just stop the clock. And then you would just do that until you got to, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. I think we kind of gradually built up the time as we went on. But that ended up apparently being a really good way to train for this because that felt way more difficult than this did. And I think we all were kind of thinking it was going to take us longer and feel heavier to cover that distance, but I don't think it took anyone longer than like 30 seconds to cover the distance. And we're not running, a fast walk.
It's a fast walk. Yeah. That is another good point though. Like, I don't know when we decided this is going to happen. 12 weeks ago.
Yeah. Something like that.
You did put together like a 6-day workout specifically to train for this. Sent that out. And some guys did it and some guys didn't, but I think that's also just really helpful in like just the preparation, like how do you train for this and having a specific training regimen for that.
If you guys want that week of block training, I didn't think about this beforehand, but let us know if you guys want that. I'll post it on the Patreon if you guys want what we use for the training for that. I know I've posted some other programming on there before. I can do that again if you guys want to look at what we were doing specifically for this test, because some of this stuff like the broad jump is something that even if a guy is like a muscle head and he's in the gym all the time, like you're probably not doing a whole bunch of broad jumping unless you're in some sports specific training program. Whereas like, I'm actually really glad that we started doing that because I think that that's one of those like fountain of youth type things. Like if you can retain that elasticity and like explosive power and be able to continue to jump and sprint for as long as possible, that's just a really good thing to do.
Yeah, the injuries go way down. But yeah, you're not doing that normally. So we're doing squat and we're doing deadlift, and we're actually practicing the broad because there's a little bit of technique involved in that as well, which is just some more of that hand-eye coordination that you don't normally get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So the farmer's carry was probably the thing that we did the best on as a group. And then the final test is that 800 meter run. We did this on the track. Which made it really easy to kind of keep track of and time it and everything. My wife had a timer going, so she kind of counted us down and we all took off. And if you've never run an all out 800, it just sucks. Like there's no getting around it. It is that median distance that is not a sprint, but it's not really a distance race. It's just a, like, how long can you hang on without, redlining and blacking out on your feet. So you're just trying to run as fast as you can for as long as you can, basically. And it sucks. Like you'll see in the video, like people are on the ground and stuff. It's pretty tough.
Timing on this one was like 3:15.
Yeah. So minimal standard was 3:15 or less. The median standard was sub 3 minutes, and then Be a Pro is 2:45 or better. So 2:45 is a pretty quick 800 for your average, just like adult man. Now, if you're like running track in high school or, collegiate track or something, like that's not a fast 800 time. But for the average dude walking off the street, like a sub 3 minute 800's moving pretty quick.
And to be able to do all the other events.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, for sure.
Ben did the pro.
Yeah. We kind of all had a feeling like he ran cross country in high school,
and he's
runs. Tall and thin. He runs a decent amount, and he's been working up to this too. Like he knew the test was coming. He's been working on it. This is the thing that I've been putting more work into than anything else on this list, just because over the roughly 2 decades of like weight training and sports specific stuff that I've done, this is the thing that I've worked on the least, and it's very obvious. Like the other stuff was not nearly as daunting as the 800 was. So I put a bunch of work into it and got real close. I ran a 2:47, which was real close to hitting that pro standard.
But you also had Abner on his bike, run out in front of you.
I don't think it
had to juke it.
I did dodge a boy on a bike in the process, but it wasn't like I didn't have to stop or anything, like I don't think I would have made it that much faster if that hadn't happened. I don't think I would have been sub 245, but Joe did hit the standard, and then Ben ran like a 238 or something like that. He was moving pretty good. So the test went really well. We didn't have any injuries. Everyone seemed to like enjoy it for the most part. And then
everybody had a good time.
Yeah, like then we went and hung out in the backyard and grilled burgers and hot dogs and
to the point where we said, hey, let's do this again in October.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, yeah, let's do it.
I think we're going to rope some more people into this next time too. I know I will be shocked if Ryan doesn't come do it with us. He should be giving everyone a run for their money on across the board on those events. And then Brian, once this ridiculous cut is finally over and he doesn't look anorexic anymore, hopefully he's going to come do it with us as well. We've been giving him a hard time about the cut.
I've thought about it as well. I think I mentioned it to you, but now that we've done it, I think it's a good test. Having an event for the men in the church, kind of like we do the shoots in the summer, and where we say, hey, we're going to run this test and administer it, now that we've done it. And if anybody else wants to do it, and you could have a leaderboard for the whole church, that could be another good opportunity to do this summer.
Almost like a high school, like the forever on the wall, like chart, and has everyone's lifts and times and distances and everything. That would be pretty cool. That would be fun.
Yeah.
So that's the test. What I kind of want to talk about from here, like obviously if you want to use something like that, I think that's great. But what I want to kind of dig further into is why we think tests and competitions like this are so important for groups of guys that are kind of standing in that shoulder to shoulder fight, whoever those guys are for you. And there's a few things that I do want to touch on. The first one is that I think that these kinds of things take a level of commitment that it ends up making them a really good like weeding out process. Stuff like this is, for the average guy, daunting. It could be pretty embarrassing on the day if he's let a bunch of this physical stuff go for a long time. And to have the willingness to show up and like put yourself out there and go, I might look really stupid trying to jump as far as I can in front of my buddies, is actually a really good thing to just kind of see like where everyone's level of commitment is to the vision.
Yeah, I don't think it's that hard. Sometimes it is to get guys to show up and play golf or show up and play tennis or go to the range. Like there's a level of commitment there, but it's really not that hard to get people to do that.
No.
Right? It shouldn't be. This one is a little bit harder. There's a little bit more skin in the game, and I think it does work, like you said, in kind of like a weeding out and testing. Who belongs in that group and who doesn't. Yeah,
it kind of tests the buy-in, tests the resolve. And it's a really good opportunity to like call guys up and go like, listen, regardless of what the test is, like one of us is going to do something that looks really stupid. I actually think that like this is one of the best things that has come out of us picking up golf, is that like inevitably you're going to hit numerous shots that make you look like an absolute idiot.
I did today multiple times.
Same. Like you just, it just becomes part of the process. I think games like baseball too, or that they work that way. Like if you're the best hitter on the team, you're hitting 400 or something, which means that you're making a 40 on the test. Mm-hmm. Like no one is going out there and hitting the ball over the fence every time they step up to the plate. Like Barry Bonds wasn't that good. It's just the nature of these kinds of sports that cause you to just like get comfortable with failure and get good at like forgetting that and just moving on quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a really important individual skill to hone, is like that quarterback mentality. Like you just throw it through a pick, and now you have to like
have to go score.
We have to get back on offense.
Yeah.
That's good. I think it's also good to develop that thick skin. Mm-hmm. Like you have to be able to bounce back from failure. You have to be able to like fail in front of other people and not take it to heart and be embarrassed and like go.
And hopefully you've got the kind of buddies that like just razz the crap out of you when you do stuff like that.
Well, but it also like on that side as well, it's important. Like we're still friends. We're still for each other. Like there's a level of razzing that's healthy, and there's a level of like, you just like, why would I spend time with you? You
Right.
know? And so it helps
Yeah.
you hone that side as well, where like, you know where the line is, and you know what's helpful, and you know what is like just tearing guys down.
Yeah.
And so I think that helps, hone those skills, and especially the thick skin to be able to go out there, put yourself out there, do something stupid, be embarrassed, and then go hit the next shot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's good for that. It's good. It's a good test in that sense of like buy-in. I also think it's really important if we're going to be hierarchical in all of these other areas, if we're going to be patriarchal, if we're going to respect the authority of our pastors and leaders, and even like government officials that we're electing, like if we're going to really be about hierarchical, agonistic culture and going like, listen, it's good that we compete with each other to figure out who's best, because the competition raises all the boats. And like, it's good, even if you're the wealthiest dude in the church, to still submit to your pastors, right? Like those things are all good, and we're driving towards that. This is another example of like, we're okay with hierarchy. We're going to figure out like who's the fastest. We're going to figure out who's the strongest. We're going to figure out who's the best at these basic tests. And we're going to be comfortable going and figuring that out and doing that evaluation. Doesn't mean that you're like content with it and you just stay there if you are the worst or something, but it's a good way of like figuring out where you're at, setting the hierarchy, and then going, all right, I know exactly what I need to do to move up in the hierarchy.
But wouldn't you say so you have guys that show up and compete, and then people who bow out, right? You have two different categories. When you say even the guy who showed up and did the worst and had a good attitude about it, and then worked hard, and improved the next time, the amount of like respect and rapport that's built just by showing up is so much greater than somebody who's like not in the arena at all.
Dude, attitude's everything. Like it really does make a huge difference. Like if you have a kid on the team that is going to hustle his face off in practice every week, like he may not be the best linebacker in the group, but if you can count on him, he's going to pass his classes. He's going to hustle. He's going to like show up and do what he's supposed to do. Like he's going to end up playing over the course of the season in front of a kid who might be a little more talented than him, but doesn't show up and put the work in. And this is the exact same thing. Like, yeah, it actually is a really encouraging thing for even the people that are like, hey, this is my thing, is like the fitness stuff. And like, I'm in that situation. This has kind of been like something that I just have always been into. So I expect to show up and do really well. But that doesn't mean that I'm not like encouraged if someone shows up and like they know that they're not about to win everything, but they still have a great attitude about it, and they're still there to like give whatever it is that they do have. Like they're going to give their best effort. That's absolutely, it's good for everyone. Like this is still a group. This is still a unit. This is still a team, and morale is actually really important.
Yeah.
You can't, even if you had a bunch of dudes who were absolute studs, but they were just sour about everything all the time, like you don't want to be around those guys.
No.
You don't want to go into the fight with those guys. Like you want dudes that are joyful about the work.
The other fruit that has come out of this for the Titus 2 boys is we scheduled a test for them, same test this summer, I think July.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing it. They're doing their workouts every week. They're recording it. We've given them Excel sheets where they're doing their workouts. They're recording it. They're turning them in, saying I did the workout, and that has borne, I think, really good. It's done one of two things. It's like, no, I don't care about that. I'm not going to do it. Or most of the boys have been, no, like now I'm in a good habit of working out, and I'm getting stronger, and I'm getting better, and we're moving in that direction, and it doesn't suck as much as it did last week.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. And I think it's important, like you mentioned about culture building. We talk about this, and this is, return to normal kind of thing. Men should be strong, right? We talk about that. That's one of our principles, but what is our culture, and how are we building our culture to actually make that happen? What kind of space do we have in our calendars to actually be strong or get stronger or anything like that? And so if this isn't, if we're going to stay where we're at as far as like in American culture, like men are not strong.
Right.
And so we actually have to do something different to return to normal in order to abide by our principles, which are men should be strong.
Yeah, we don't live in a society anymore where like the average guy is turning wrenches and like just in really good shape, where he's a lumberjack or he's a blacksmith or something like that. We just don't live in, you know, a society anymore where you're tilling your own fields with your own hands, or, you know, doing that kind of work very often. Like a lot of guys work in cubicles. A lot of guys are sitting in front of a computer screen all day at a desk, and like pot calling kettle black here. Like that's the situation for me. Like I spend most of my time editing podcasts, right? Like it's not exactly the most masculine profession in the world. So that means though that we have to overemphasize these things if we want to exemplify them in the culture. We have to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do, maybe outside of your profession, to make sure that you still exemplify these masculine characteristics like strength.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one that I want to touch on here is just shared adversity. I don't think that you could really put a dollar amount on this. There's just something that allows, like, this is the way that guys bond. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the videos of like dudes that served in the military together, especially, but, you know, say they're infantrymen or something and they haven't seen each other for a decade, and then they see each other again and they act like 3-year-old, like toddlers seeing each other. They like jump in each other's arms and like start crying, and they're like freaking out. And these are grown men, right? I think that what you're seeing there is the kind of bond that's only built through shared suffering. And we actually need those kinds of things. It doesn't mean you have to go, you know, fight overseas with your buddies in order to be good friends with them. That's not what I'm saying. But you do need something that resembles that kind of pressure and intensity in a situation. And the knowledge that like, I'm miserable, but so is this guy next to me. Like we're all in this miserable situation together. We're going to lean on each other. The effect of that is extremely powerful. And if you don't naturally have those things, like we just talked about, then you have to overemphasize them. Like you have to manufacture them to make sure that that gets done. You're not going to have the same level of friendship with someone that you just work next to in an office as you do with a guy that you're going and doing really hard stuff together. It's just the way that God made the world.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this even with the Titus 2 boys. They went on the FTX last year. We're going on in this next week. They tell stories about that all the time. They talk about how much it sucked and how hard it was, and just the difficulties that they had. And then they said, but I can't wait to go next year.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing, is manufacturing that difficult hardship for them, because life doesn't just give you those things. You actually have to make sure they happen.
I think you can see this too you brought up them telling stories, but like this is just the way that men are. Like when I get around my buddies that I grew up with and we start telling old sports stories and stuff, the vast majority of the time we're telling stories where we got annihilated, you know, like where everyone is injured, or, you know, we just got the brakes beat off of us in a football game, or like, you remember how terrible we played against that, you know, state finalist team in district or whatever. Like we tend not to tell like hey, remember when we won by 40? Like those actually aren't very fun stories to tell.
Hey, or it's like bravado or pride, where you're like, hey, remember when I set that high school record? Like,
Right,
like,
yeah.
Cool, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up again. No, the fun ones to tell are like when you're reliving those miserable moments. Like those are the fun stories to tell. And so if you don't have any of those, it's gonna be hard to find really fun stories to tell with your friends. And that's like telling those same stories again is part of the goodness. Like that's a good thing. On top of the adversity, I think that competition itself creates deeper friendships. We're going to do an episode coming up here soon about competition in particular, because we had a really good conversation when we were out at the conference here recently about men just needing to be in a competitive state pretty much all the time, and understanding and having the mindset that like every room you walk into is a competition of some kind. Usually there's more than one going on. Like when we go out and play golf today, we're obviously trying to figure out like which of the 2-man scramble teams are going to have the lowest score when we get to the end of the 18th hole. Obviously, yes. You're also going like, yeah, but we had less double bogeys than you. We also had less 3-putts than you did. We hit more fairways than you though. Like there are actually like 50 competitions going on, and that's just like the stuff that you can keep track of on a sheet.
In between holes, whose golf cart was faster and got there quicker. Like,
literally, like dumb stuff like that is constant, and like it gets all the way down to like who is the quickest to lose their temper, and like
who threw the club the furthest.
yeah, like who freaked out after they missed a putt today, or like it's those kinds of things that you're like, everything is a competition. And yes, you can manufacture those things and do the Michael Jordan thing where like you make up stuff in every scenario, but like it actually is really good to just blatantly have a competition and going, okay, here are the parameters. Here's what it means to win. Here's what it means to lose. Best man wins. Like, and figure it out.
And I think it's not always like in the front of your mind. Like you're not thinking about, okay, I'm keeping score and all the, like, it's kind of like once you start thinking this way, it's just kind of like in the back of your mind, kind of autopilot. Mm-hmm. But then you recognize it because you're like, oh, I need to figure out what my longest drive was today. What was your longest drive today?
Right.
You know, and like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
And you're like, does that make any difference on who had like the no. But it matters. Like, but it still matters. And so I think that a test like this is really good for that, obviously, because you're competing against each other. But I also think that there's another layer of competition here, which is the fact that you are competing against the test itself. I think something like this is really, really useful because you have these exact parameters that go, you either met this standard or this standard or this standard, and
or you didn't,
right? And so I think that while you're all trying to beat each other, like I did not want Joe beating me in an 800 meter run. Like I was trying to run him down in the last 200 meters and he held on and beat me by 2 seconds. I wanted to beat him, but also I'm stoked that he met the top standard. Like I didn't by 2 seconds, he did. And I'm really excited that like he beat the test. And so there's another layer of competition here where you're actually rooting for all of your buddies too.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I hope Ben really does get that 10th rep on the bench press.
Because you're for one another.
Yes.
Right. It's not the level of competition where you want to see other people fail. You want like you said, you want the tide to raise all the boats, and you're for one another, and you can be happy with when other people succeed.
I think that is really important to have on a periodic basis. Like it doesn't have to be every week or every day or something like that. But I think, a couple times a year, 3-4 times a year, it's really good to have stuff like this where you're doing very measured, very, very clear expectation type things that are daunting for everyone. And you're trying to beat the test, but you're also trying to beat each other. I think that those things are really, really good. Like some of the examples that you could think of where guys played against each other their entire lives, or even like I saw a video recently where two World War II soldiers who fought on opposite sides of a battlefield, like met each other in peacetime somewhere in Europe. And like, they're immediately fast friends because they know what that was like, even though at the time they were trying to kill each other. And so I think that there's just something that competition breeds that is a deeper level of respect and friendship and admiration. And it's really, really important for building something like a brotherhood or a tight knit group of guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You think about what is the fruit of that? What are you going to do with that? Like this is manufactured and this is maybe not that important in the scheme of things. But then when you have that group of guys, what can you then go do? Because you trust one another, you love one another, and you're for one another. And you've done this in the dojo, and now in real life, you actually have friendship that you can lean on.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can trust those guys. Like, that they can perform, that they can, what they can handle, and not to ask too much of them. Like, what their limits are, what they're capable of. I think that's really, really important. So I think that's kind of the episode. Hopefully you guys are doing stuff like this. Hopefully you've got a solid group of guys around you. Keep calling them up. Keep trying to look for things that can challenge everyone a little bit. Get out of your comfort zones. It's actually going to be really, really good for everyone.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right, guys, that's the episode. We really appreciate you hanging out. As always, stay frosty, fight the good fight, act like men.